Going over to you.
Thanks. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it may be for you. My name's Chris, and I'm from the Toronto 16 cohort. Um, and we're going to have a look at how you can tame your data with Data Studio. So this is going to be a really superficial, basic look at what we can do with Data Studio. We're going to use some kind of arbitrary data, but it's going to give you the foundations that you need to go away and to kind of start using this maybe with your own project or in school yourself. So there are some slides here. The thing that you're going to want out of these slides is the resources that are at the end of it. So Mockaroo is a really awesome resource. And then there's some tutorials here that have been made using IRAD. If you haven't checked out IRAD, I definitely recommend that you do. It's really cool. But these will take you through what we're going to do this morning, or at least the basics of what we're going to do this morning. So to get started, what I did was I went and used Mockaroo. Mockaroo is just a website that will generate random data. So what I've done is I've actually taken movie titles, movie genres, years, and references. And you can see that each one of these has a data type. So if we go and then look at the data that this produces, I've now put this into a Google Sheet. So this Google Sheet now has 1,000 rows of data. So we all know the problem when it comes to dealing with data like this. Yeah, we could filter it in the sheet, but filtering this data in the sheet becomes a really challenging task. It's not that easy to start to break that data down to see it. We could use pivot tables, but those pivot tables are kind of hard to use. Trying to display the data in a format that's not the spreadsheet also becomes a challenge. So we can now use Data Studio to take this data from the sheet and display it in a way that's a little bit more user-friendly. So just in the chat, just let me know. I'd just be interested to know how many people have used Data Studio previously, like what your skill set is with Data Studio. So if you just throw in the chat there, whether you're a Data Studio beginner, whether you've kind of done a lot with it. Okay, so beginner 0. Okay, awesome. So we'll take this slow. We'll use our 20 minutes, and we'll kind of get to the point where hopefully you're at a point where you can get going with us. So to get to Data Studio, you simply go to datastudio.google.com. Depending on your account, if you're using your school account, you may find that this is blocked. But in your personal Gmail, or if you're a trainer, if you do this in your trainer domain, you can use this without any issues. So what you're going to see is this like welcome page, which looks like a lot of things that you would see in Google Drive. So it looks very much like what you would normally find when you open Google Drive. And there's two ways to create a new report. So everything that we're going to create in Data Studio is based around a report. So we can either click the create button in the corner and you can choose what you're going to create, or we can just click on the start with a template and you can use the blank report option. So I tend to just click this tile here because I find it the easiest place to find it. So when you hit this, what's going to happen is it's going to say, okay, well, to create a report, we actually need some data to put on this report. And you can pull data from a whole range of different locations. And you can see here, if you start scrolling through, there's a load of different possibilities. The ones that you're going to find the most useful are going to be Google Sheets. A lot of these other ones, if you're in your education account, you won't be able to use because they require you to have billing enabled in your account. And most education accounts don't allow you to set up the billing. So you can't use a lot of the BigQuery functionality, which is where Data Studio becomes really powerful. So for now, we're just going to click we're just going to stick with Google Sheets. So we're going to click on Google Sheets. And this is going to pull up all of the Google Sheets that are stored in your Google Drive. So I have this one that I've got open up here in this tab that's called Movies. So I'm just going to select this. And you'll see now if you had multiple worksheets in that sheet, it would pull up those worksheets. I can also have the option to use the first row as headers. If you don't have any headers in your sheet, you wouldn't choose this. That's going to make your life really difficult. So a header is the title. And that's going to make what we're going to do next a lot easier. And you can also choose whether you're including hidden cells and filtered cells. We're just going to use everything for now, and we're going to click on Add. So when we click on Add, it says, are you sure you want to do this? And usually the answer to that is yes, I am. So I'm going to add this to my report. And what you get is you get this very basic looking table. So if any of you have used awesome tables in the past, this kind of gives you something that maybe you're used to seeing from that. Now, you're like, oh, great, I've made a page and I've put a table on it. This looks just like my spreadsheet did. But this is where things get interesting. So when we click on our table here, you can now see on the sidebar here that we've got a load of options. And some of these things are data sources. We've got dimensions, we've got metrics, a variety of different things. Now, what we can start to do is we can now start to use the data that we've got here to either create filters and queries of our data, or we can add these filter controls. So the first thing that I'm going to do is remove some stuff that drives me crazy. So I hate that there's row numbers because I find them highly annoying. So if we scroll down in our data section here, when we get down to the bottom here, you're going to find some options, but you're going to find that none of the formatting things are here. That's because you have to click on Style. So the Style button that's on the top right-hand corner. And when we click on there, we can start to remove a lot of the things that are irritating to me. So I can remove the row numbers. So now the row numbers are gone. If you want to, you can remove the headers. Like, you probably want to keep those. You can change the colors, you can change the fonts. There's a variety of different things that are in here. Now, I'm now still stuck with this record count option. So that's another thing that I'm going to want to get rid of. We're going to find that here under metric. So metrics are these, it's like data analysis or statistics that it can do. And all you do is you go over here and you click on the little X. And now that's gone away. So now we're left with our basic table that looks like this. So here's our basic table. If you want to display more than 100 items, you can do. You can drag it down so more of those items appear. You can control how many rows are on each page over here. So that's an option here. You can say, well, I only want 20 items on a page. So what we're going to do is we're now going to say, well, we want to begin to filter by some of the other information that I have about these movies. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a control. So at the top here, I have this option to add a control. And in this add a control, I can choose a drop-down list, a fixed size list, and the input box, a variety of different things. So I'm going to choose a drop-down list, and I'm just going to pop it right here. And what I'm going to say is I want this control field to be the movie genre. So I've gone over here to my available fields, and I'm going to drag this over here to my control field. And now when I go and view here, when I choose a particular thing, if I say I only want this to be this particular item, I now only have the documentaries, and you can see that now I'm filtered down to a list of 77 items. I can say that I only want drama and romance. Now I only have 53 items. Or I only want horror, so there's 24 items. And you can also see it gives you a record count. I can choose multiples. I can also search in here. So I could search for thriller, and then I could check off all the ones that have thriller in the title. So those filter controls allow you to start to filter your data in something that I personally feel is a little bit more user-friendly than what you would do in a spreadsheet. So it's really hard to select all of them. You have to actually go through and like select them all off. But we're going to go back to edit here. And there used to be an option at the bottom of the list. I think they got rid of it, yeah, where you could actually like select them all back again. This is the only thing that's annoying. So I'm going to add some more of these back in, and then we'll have a look at the next thing we can do. So sometimes this isn't. Oh, there we go. So you can check off the box at the top here. I knew there was a way to do it. So next to the title, yeah. So we can either add them all, remove them all, add them all, remove them all. Okay. So I'm actually going to now delete this movie genre thing from here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I want to approach this in a slightly different way. What I want to do is I want to, when I click on a title of a movie over here, I want to be able to see more information about that movie. Now, to be able to do this, I have to check off a box. So over here in our data source at the bottom, there is an option which says chart interactions, cross filtering. And I need to slide that slider across here. This used to be a checkbox at the bottom that you would check off, but this needs to be slid across. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a chart and I'm going to add another table. So in this table here, I'm going to add the movie genre. I'm going to add the reference number. Hold on. I'm going to add the movie genre. I dragged it to the wrong place. I'm going to add the reference number and I'm going to add the year. I'm going to remove my record count again. I'm going to go into style. I'm going to remove my row numbers. I'm going to remove the pagination because I don't need that anymore. And what I'm going to do now is when I click on view and I choose a particular item from the side here, when you click on that, because I slid across that slider, it now uses this table on the right-hand side as the filter. So this table on the left is filtering the table on the right. So the information that's appearing here is controlled by this table here. Okay. Everybody good so far? We've still got a few minutes. Happy to take a few minutes to answer any questions or help you guys out if anybody's lost. Okay, awesome. So the last step of this, so where we're going to pull all this together, is we're actually going to add another control here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use an input box. So I'm going to put this input box. And what we're going to allow people to do is we're going to allow people now to search by a movie title. So our movie title is going to control this field. And then we're going to now control this. So all I did was added a control. So you can now see how this starts to pull together. So I can search for mother, let's say. Oh, nothing with mother in it. Tar. So clearly this is where I have broken it. So it doesn't always work exactly as you want it to work. Movie title should work. So let's remove this. Let's pick something, zoo. It's gonna come up. No. So yeah, so this is where it doesn't work and I don't know why. But theoretically what this should do is this should now filter through our movie titles and then that should then allow us to filter again by the reference. And what you can do is say if you want this to just be the reference number, and then you want just the movie genre, and then you just want the year, you can just keep adding individual tables instead of having to have them all appear side by side. I can show you how to do that quickly. So I could remove movie genre and year. So I've just got the reference number here. Can add a chart. So you could add a table in here. And then you would just make this one the genre. And again, just go in, remove the row numbers and this. Go in and delete the record count. So now we've just got the genre. And if I delete this control here, we can now see everything. And now what you can see is if I click here, both of these tables now update with the correct information. And you can play with this, and you can, you can change the layout so it becomes something kind of neat and tidy that you, in a way that you want it to appear. You can put images in here. You can display images. You can display maps. You can display a whole range of data. And then once you've got the data that you want, you can actually also make copies of the data. And there's a new option to present this, and it appears like a Google slide. And you can actually use this as like a presentation tool as well. So I think that's pretty much all of my time. If you've got any questions, I'm more than happy to go through those. I know it was a little whistle stop, but hopefully that answered all of the basics on how to get started with Data Studio.
Thanks so much, Chris. That was really fantastic. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to Chris. Our next session coming up is going to be designing bite-sized technology trainings using micro-learning with Catherine Neves from VIA 20. I'm going to put the link in the chat, and we'll join you in the meet coming up. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks, Sandra.
Hey, it's good to see you.
You too.
Just posting it right now, and then I'm going to pause the recording. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you. You better stop the recording.